online certificate course, Basics of Conservation, conceptualized by Greenworks Trust and supported by Seek India Private Limited. I'm sure you must have submitted the test given to you after this first session, that is air, and it's quite possible that you have started thinking upon the actions which are affecting or harming environment. So with this thought, let's begin with our second session, and the speaker this time is Miss Gargi Gill. She is a unique mix of skills. She has done masters in Marathi and is a freelancer writer and Marathi tutor. On the other hand, she is a passionate nature lover and photographer. She has been associated with Greenworks Trust through various awareness activities, and she is working as a project manager on this project of bringing this online course to you. So let's begin with the day one, session two. Over to you, Gargi.
Yes, thank you, Sagar. Thank you for a very short introduction. Well, hello everyone. Good evening again. So let's begin now. Allow me to begin with our next topic, which is saline water. Okay. Let's see what is saline water. It's basically salt water, water that contains high concentration of dissolved salts. Yes, the salts. Yes, it is an ingredient that we put in our food every day, and salt is the reason why oceans are pretty much relatable to us. So let's see where exactly do we find this salt water. Actually, it's everywhere. Every school kid even can tell you that 71% of the earth's surface is covered with water. And for our better understanding, we have divided this salt water into five oceans, that is Pacific, Atlantic, Arctic, and our very own Indian Ocean and the Southern Ocean. Okay, just give me a minute to shoo away this crow. Thank you. Yeah, extremely sorry for the inconvenience. Uh, okay, let's continue. As I was saying, talking about the oceans, yes, you all must be familiar with these five oceans. So, these oceans, they not only cover the vast surface of the earth, they are mysteriously very deep, and they're so deep. There's one deepest place we have known so far is Mariana Trench. It is in the Pacific Ocean. Okay, you can compare here it with the Mount Everest. Mount Everest is about 8,800 meters high, and Mariana Trench is more than 10,000 meter deep. So it's like if we take the Mount Everest and dip it into the ocean, still the space of about 2,000 meters will be left. So trench is that deep and probably one of the darkest place on the earth. Oceans are really very important for us. Okay, our very own existence is actually dependent on the ocean. And how exactly is that? So let's see. 70% of the oxygen in the atmosphere comes from the ocean. Seriously, 70%. And that is because there are plants in the ocean too. Like there is seagrass, there's algae, and so many things. But but the phytoplanktons, okay, they are the major contributors. They play a major contribution to this oxygen. uh, these phytoplanktons are basically microscopic plants. They photosynthesize, they absorb carbon dioxide and release oxygen, just like our trees, just like any other plant do. And considering that the ocean covers the majority of the earth's surface, every 10 breath we take, Seven of them come from the ocean, no matter how far we stay from the ocean. And it makes sense, no? I mean, if we visit any desert, or if we take a ship or cruise to the deep sea, we still can breathe even though there are no plants around. So phytoplankton is the reason for this atmospheric oxygen. And it's not only that they give us the oxygen, these oceans not only give us the oxygens, these oceans gives us water too. Every drop of water we take is connected with the ocean. And how exactly is that? I mean, of course, we don't drink the salt water, but I'm sure we all are familiar with this concept of water cycle. You know, water evaporates, then cloud condenses, and it pours rain everywhere. So almost every drop of rain on the land literally comes from the ocean. But we always think that ocean doesn't give us the drinking water. And as there is a water cycle, there's also another cycle in the ocean, which is carbon cycle. Okay, we humans and many other animals on the land, we breathe oxygen and give out the carbon dioxide. The same thing occurs in the ocean. Marine animals breathe in the same way. So, where does all that oxygen go that they breathe? Okay, it doesn't go into the atmosphere. Actually, it stays in the ocean only. And when these marine animals die, you can see here they sink down. Okay, when they die, they sink down to the ocean, and after many years, it turns into the fossil fuel. So plus these whales, you can see here these whales. These are amazing. They fertilize the phytoplankton by pooping into the sea. So basically, there's good amount of carbon storage in the ocean. So that means the ocean, once the carbon is absorbed in the ocean, it stays in the ocean. It doesn't enter into the atmosphere unless, of course, we dig up the fossil fuels and burn it. So that means these oceans, they help us to control the climate. I hope you all are familiar with this concept of ocean currents. So basically, what happens here is that ocean is directly exposed to the sun, right? So it soaks up the heat, and these currents, you can see here these currents. Okay, they transfer the heat. They transfer this heat. I mean, just a minute. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, so these oceans, they soak up the heat, and these currents, they transfer the warm water from equator to poles and cold water from poles to the equator. And without this process, the weather will be very extreme, and there would be very less places for us to live. So that tells us that oceans are climate regulators as well. They regulate the temperature as well. Oceans and seas are also important source of protein. They are also important source of food. Okay, ocean is number one source of protein for more than 100 crore people, and considering the growing population, 15 lakh people per week are relying on the ocean more and more for survival. This great amount of biodiversity also thrives in our ocean. There are fishes, whales, turtles, corals, and everything. And almost 60% of the world's human population live on the coastal line, which is directly dependent on the healthy sea. 60%, that is more than half of the population. Also, when we think of vacation, the best holidays are always close to the water. We simply love to visit beaches, to swim, surf, to sail, to dive, or maybe just to relax. And that is certainly very obvious because ocean has therapeutic properties. We feel really happy, we feel at peace. It reduces our psychological stress and it strengthens our relations. And oceans really do that. Oceans also play important role in economy as well. Around 6 crore people in the world are engaged in fisheries and other fields like tourism, aquaculture, mineral resources, biotechnology, shipbuilding and repairing, oil, gas, transport, and many more. About 90% of the world trade is made by sea. And just to give you an example, in USA only, 30 lakh jobs are directly dependent on the sea, like lifeguard, diving instructor, water sports, and so many. And marine ecosystems are undoubtedly important for us. It's not only that the fish are dependent on the coral reefs. The Great Barrier Reef generates more than 150 crore dollars every year for Australian economy simply by fishing and tourism only. So this is what coral reefs can do for us if we, of course, maintain them. But in return, what do we do? In return, we are treating our oceans like this. Ocean can absorb carbon, but it cannot absorb the plastic in the same way. And we treat them like some trash bin. The biggest level of microplastic ever recorded on the seafloor is up to 19 lakh pieces in a thin layer covering just 1 square meter. You can see now this dog here, okay? This square is about a meter and 19 lakh pieces in it now. Imagine just a thin layer covering this tiny square meter of area. And now, of course, as there is too much of plastic in the ocean, it is again obvious that this plastic ultimately ends up in the marine animals' tummies. They eat it unknowingly, and that is not some tiny amount as well. Studies have shown that more than 2 lakh tons of plastic is eaten by marine animals all over, and due to that, 10 crore marine animals die each year from plastic waste alone. Now, this wasn't the case before. It's just in the past 10 years, we have made more plastic than the last century itself. And now, in total, 83 lakh tons of plastic is discarded in the sea every year. And this plastic, we can see the difference between them, between the plastic and jellyfish, but these turtles, they can't. They cannot see that difference, especially when there's 83 lakh tons of wastage is around. And again, out of this 83 lakh tons, India generates about 25,000 tons of plastic every day because we don't have decent recycling systems here. There are many countries which are, I'm sorry, there are many countries which are responsible for marine pollution, and India ranks 12th among this among top 20 countries. So, yes, we Indians are choking too many lives today. And it's not only about these animals eating plastic only, because every year nearly 1 lakh marine animals die by getting entangled in the plastic and fishing gears. And you wouldn't believe now there is so much trash in the ocean that these garbage patches are getting their own names now. Now, the one which we are looking is a Great Pacific Garbage Patch. As the name suggests, it is in the Pacific Ocean. It is the it is to the west coast of San Francisco in Mexico. Yeah, you can see here. It is here. So this patch consists about 80,000 tons of garbage, and this patch keeps moving in that region though, but majority of it consists plastic only. Today there are about 5 trillion pieces in the ocean, and we have talked about this floating plastic only. Okay, but what we actually see on that surface is just a tip, because the trash which is floating on the surface is only 15%. The trash that we find on the shores is another 50%, and the 70% of the trash has already hit the bottom of the ocean. What we really get to see today is literally just a tip of the iceberg. And if you remember, I mentioned about the Mariana Trench. So far, only three people could have reached to that deepest place of the earth, and those who went there, they could actually see some pieces of plastic settled on the bottom of the Mariana Trench. So you can imagine how plastic has reached far. Now, those who do not live on the coast must be thinking that, okay, we are nice people. We don't throw our trash into the ocean, we throw it into the dustbin. But the fact is that people who live on the coast, they do not throw their trash directly into the ocean either. It just goes there. Our rivers take everything that they get in the middle of the flow, and they give that everything to the ocean or to the seas. Okay, you can see here, these are top 11, top 10 polluted rivers. Okay, 90% of the ocean debris literally comes from these Asian and African rivers. And here you can see Meghna, Brahmaputra, and Ganga, which is basically Sundarban Delta. Okay, this is one of the topmost polluter. China is, of course, the Yangtze River from China is, of course, on the top. But we are also on the top 10 polluted rivers. So, why am I showing you this? So, what does that mean? It basically means that the rivers that flows from the Himalayan region are responsible for this huge amount of pollution. So it doesn't matter how far we actually live from the sea. And it's not only that they carry the plastic, there's great agricultural land runoff, which basically carries soil. Okay, this is the soil that doesn't stick to the land. It easily gets mixed with the water. And that only happens when this eroded soil has fertilizers, pesticides, and basically excessive amount of carbon, phosphorus, and when it meets to the ocean, it affects the fish, turtle, shrimps, and whatnot. So, what we have learned so far is that the pollution of the ocean actually begins from the land. You must be familiar now with these items. This is petrol. This is petrol or diesel, basically fuel that is refined crude oil. Uh, then these are some byproducts of petroleum. Okay, creams and other sort of cosmetics, and cosmetics where the petroleum is used, and the plastic, of course, which is used to sell or to contain this cosmetics. Okay, is also plastic, is also made from petroleum. There are some candles also which are called as paraffin wax, which is again made from petroleum. And these are pastels. Okay, probably oil pastels, probably one of the best childhood memory for many of us. But yet again, made of petroleum. So the thing is, we use a lot of petroleum products in day-to-day life, and since the very beginning, in the early stage of life. Okay, and where does all this petroleum come from? It comes from the oil rigs, definitely. And no matter how many precautions are taken, this oil always spills. Not always, but yeah, majority of the time it spills. According to US Department of Energy, around 49 lakh liters of oil is spilled into US water in a year. Okay, this much amount of oil. Uh, Now that's a really great amount of oil spill, and I'm just talking about US waters only. Okay, sadly, we don't have enough data from India, but we do have one NIO report from 1993 where there was oil leak or oil spill from Bombay High. the researchers tracked that spill and they found some tar balls on the shores of Karwar, which is in Karnataka. Okay, it's a spill from Bombay can take that oil to Karwar just in 5 days. So you can imagine the wastage and the damage that occurred there. And of course, the oil again went to Mumbai shores as well. This picture here, this second picture, okay, this is taken by Shaunak Modi recently from Juhu Beach of Mumbai. And you can look at the amount of oil spill. Okay, this oil spill, this does not only kill the intertidal species, but it also affects the phytoplanktons that gives us the oxygen. And I assume somehow that this picture is quite familiar to all of you. This is the okay. Thank you. Yeah. This picture is probably it circulated a lot during this lockdown, and this is a very recent incident. Uh, okay. So this oil spill occurred just few months back in Mauritius, and just within a week, okay, there were 40 dead dolphins were found on the beach of Mauritius. So you can imagine what this oil spill does to the oceans, to the marine ecosystem, and it all because we want to use something on the land. Sewage is another issue. Cruises and transport ships, they certainly release their waste into the ocean, and that's how sewage and garbage reaches to the deep sea. Other than industries and sewage plants dump Other than industries, the sewage plants dump almost 22 crore tons of waste yearly directly into the ocean. Now, marine researchers from Mumbai have observed that the sewage pipelines, the opened 100 meters into the sea, there's a great crab population surviving on that sewage. And there are two more sewage pipelines in South Bombay that open directly inside the sea. And that is affecting people who are surviving on the marine species for food. So almost two-thirds of marine lives in the world is already under threat from this chemical that we use every day, including household cleaners. Plus this industrial waste, which has a full variety of chemicals that enter into the sea and disrupts the entire food chain. We can see it affecting the pH level here, and the more we bother our seas, the lesser hospitable environment for these fishes, and the lesser fish, the more fight for hunger. And the war has already begun already, because scientists are predicting that by the end of the century there's going to be 150% more acidification in the water, and it affects the oxygen level of the water. When the oxygen level is lower than 2 mg per liter, the area is considered as dead zone. Now that doesn't mean that there is no life. It just means the area is not suitable for majority of the species to survive. Today there are and the thing is, today there are 500 plus dead zones. 500 plus dead zones in the world overall. Okay. So, what does this dead zone suggest? That the number of fish and other sort of biodiversity is declining, and we have seen already how Great Barrier Reef helps with the economy, and we have also seen that the great number of people are dependent on the sea for food. So it's going to be difficult, and it's already the fight has already started. Now let's talk something about fishing. We all know we all know how do we get the seafood, right? Especially the fish. We know that these fishermen take their boats or the trawlers, they put their net and spread it into the sea and catch the fish. But there's one unethical and disastrous way of fishing, which is called as blast fishing. It sounds horrible, right? They what do they do is they blast the certain area with the explosives and collect the dead fish and sell it into the market. So this ultimately contaminates our food, our seawater, and of course it destroys the habitat and everything. And maybe these small scale problems are not enough. We destroy our oceans for nuclear testing. The more we seek for the war, the more it happens. In about 1950 to 1998, okay, just in 48 50 years, over 100 nuclear blasts occur in the ocean because land was not an option for the testing. Okay, 100 nuclear blasts just in the span of 50 years. We have recently witnessed what happened in Beirut, in Lebanon. Nuclear testing is far, far worse than that. Now you can definitely imagine what we could be doing to this marine ecosystem. And so, what do we get from all this? From all this chaos? We get what we do, right? The reports have shown that consumption of this contaminated shellfish is a cause of 50,000 to 1 lakh deaths due to damage, immune, and cancer. Okay, because this shellfish have very different sort of digestive system. They usually, I mean, if we get poisoned, okay, we throw it out some or the other way. We humans do that, but this shellfish, their digestive systems are developed very differently. What they do is they store all the toxic chemicals and toxic material or heavy metals with them, and if any human goes and consumes this, of course it is going to affect that person very adversely. And but being vegan is not going to solve this, because salt is not excluded from all this chaos. It is difficult to remove microplastic from the salt, and we are already probably eating it. Okay, because it says over 90% of the sampled salt brands globally found it contains the microplastic. It takes a lot many years, 100 to 500 years to decompose this plastic, because plastic doesn't turn into the soil. Evidently, the direct medical and health cost of this polluted water is 1600 crore dollars each year globally. Because once the toxin goes out, okay, once we throw that toxic into the ocean or in the system, it ultimately comes back. It ultimately comes back to us. Nothing escapes from this natural cycle. WHO has also estimated that each year globally there are 12 crore cases of gastrointestinal diseases, and in excess 5 crore cases of more severe respiratory diseases caused by simply swimming and bathing in coastal salt water. Now, this wasn't again the case before. People used to dive in the salt water every another day. But we have polluted, especially the cities have polluted this water. So people, those who dive in the city sea water, are more likely to get gastrointestinal diseases. Rather, there have been cases. Uh, there was a trained navy diver who dived into the Mumbai waters, and all we know that he got hospitalized for a week at least. So you can imagine what pollution must have done to him. And this rate, if we continue to treat our ocean like it is going to get like this, it is going to get us all someday. It's so what? The oceans are really huge. What do I have to do with it? Anything can go into the ocean. This approach and this attitude is not going to help us at this point. Earth's surface is mostly covered with the ocean. So imagine at what magnitude we are dealing with, because pollution is something that always backfires, and we cannot afford to get backfired from the 70% of the earth, right? So it's high time to start respecting the seas, to start respecting to the oceans, because no matter whether we live in the mountains or in the desert or even at the coast. So thank you for listening to me. That is all for now.
Thank you, Gargi. It was really an informative and thought-provoking session. And the sentence, actually, you told us at the end on this slide, actually, particularly this slide, that we cannot afford to get backfire from 70% of the Earth's surface that is covered by sea. That is really indicating an alarming situation. So, everyone, now time for the test. One link will be sent to the WhatsApp group, and you need to answer the questions and submit it within half an hour. So now we will meet for the next session at 7 o'clock. If anyone has any doubt, he or she can contact Gargi directly through WhatsApp. She is one of the admin of this particular group. All right, then we'll meet or see you soon.
Yeah,
Again
thank you,
at
Simon.
7.
There are just two questions that I would like to answer. One is from Sangeeta
Okay.
Jain, that does this blast fishing happens in India, and if yes, where? There are many places in India where this blast fishing occurs, and blast fishing is not really restricted to the salt waters only. It occurs in the fresh water as well, where when there are open rivers and everything. Uh, so yes, there are many places it is illegal, but still people do that because it is an easy way to collect the fish. Are the people who are in the position of giving permission to industry aware of all these effects? I'm not sure if they are aware of the effects, but I'm pretty sure that they know that it is not healthy. So I hope they'll get aware as soon as possible. And like to, oh, thank you so much. So I guess yes, it's time for the test, and we'll meet for the, as Sagar said, that we'll meet for the next session at 7 o'clock. Thank you for joining.
Thank you, everyone. All the best for the test.